Okay, my colleagues, good afternoon officially. I'll call this meeting to order. As we do not have a quorum, I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to pick up the agenda at item number 8. Is there any objection to moving directly there?
No.
Okay. So
I can continue that. So as we've been discussing over the last couple meetings, we really want the CAC to be actively engaged and involved in the processes and the planning of the PDC and the TPO, but also we want it to be a bidirectional conversation, right? A bidirectional relationship where you're also sharing information out into the communities that you are representing, and bringing information back to us. As we've looked at the CAC and where it is now, we see that there's opportunity for improvement. And I want the CAC to be the lead on what that looks like, right? How does the CAC move forward? When it was first established in 2010 as CTAC, it was originally just for the TPO. And now we are, as you know, the CAC, and we have expanded the purview to also be over the PDC departments that we met with today. We currently have an allotment for 30 members, but we have 17 localities that are represented here. And so just being able to take a deeper dive and look at some of the specifics of our bylaws, the structure, the ability to meet virtually, what does that all look like future moving forward for the CAC, and creating a subcommittee for members who are interested in having that conversation to get together outside of normal CAC meeting times to discuss. I could help in handling the logistics for that, as far as like, reserving meeting space, getting that taken care of for you. But I wanted to open up the floor to see if anyone had any questions about that before I went any further, and see if there's anything that I could answer about what that may look like. Mhm.
Are you talking about like?
Can you use your mic, or you can use mine?
Okay. So are you saying like when we're out in a community, a lot of us are active in a community. So is there like a reporting mechanism where if we're on our phone and we're in a city council meeting, we say, hey, this comment came up, or we were at a community event and a certain comment was posted or, addressed. Is there a way to type it or send it to you immediately? So by the time we meet again, we could have had some action around it, or at least a response to the situation.
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So I'll start by first saying while there's no official structure in place for a reporting mechanism for that, you all can always email me at qmclaurin@hrpdcva.gov or title6@hrpdcva.gov. And if there's something that you want me to look up, even if it's not necessarily in my scope of work, I will do what I can to get those answers or solutions. A great example is actually before this meeting, I thought we had some questions about the HRBT, so I wanted to make sure that we had some information here about that project timeline. So I'm your staff liaison. Use me. I'm a resource for you. The PDC is a resource for you. The TPO is a resource for you. So in that subcommittee, you'll have the opportunity to discuss, do you want to create a reporting structure? Do you want to create a formalized way so that that feedback can come back to the CAC and then be disseminated to the PDC and TPO? Because currently we don't have that. I believe, Diana, did you have a question?
I was going to ask what does a subcommittee, what would they do? How would that look like? That'd be on just another day, on a specific subject, or on a talk, or what?
Yeah, so once subcommittee members are appointed and put like together for the group, we just go by schedule, logistics. We've already had some volunteers volunteers say that they wanted to join and participate in that. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make today's meeting due to a scheduling conflict. But really, in that subcommittee, you all would be reviewing the bylaws, you'd be looking at the current structure of the CAC and talking about, okay, what goals do you have moving forward as a CAC? How can you be more engaged, effective, and involved with the community and with the agencies?
Do we have to change the bylaws to allow subcommittees? We have a subcommittee for training.
Oh, I'm sorry if I miscommunicated. You don't have to change bylaws to create the subcommittee. If you see on point 8 there, that's actually an excerpt from our current bylaws. And the CAC chair may create standing or ad hoc subcommittees from time to time as circumstances warrant. So our chair would be able to create a subcommittee, but this is an opportunity for us to be able to discuss that and see as a group, you know, kind of where the thermometer is, where we are, what questions we may have before we move forward.
Yeah, quickly here. Yeah, I think it's a great idea because one, it dedicates a group to looking at this on a consistent basis and reporting back. Two, we don't have to wait for every meeting to engage on this issue, which is more important. Three, we can roll along a bit faster. And four, that group can do its own research, you know, i.e. benchmarking with other committees, et cetera.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or feedback, concerns?
So I guess the length of the structure around the subcommittee, that's loose, you know, i.e. is there a chair, is there a co-chair, does it last for 6 months? How frequently does it report back? You know, that's, we have the authority, but just the administration of it.
Sorry. As far as the length of the subcommittee or some of those more specific details, we haven't decided that yet because we just want to see, is this something that, yeah, does the CAC want to move forward on this? And as I mentioned before, I really want to see the CAC move forward on deciding its own agenda. I really want to see you all take more lead and me be able to be that resource and that liaison to you and provide that support. So this will give you as a body the opportunity to get together, review and assess what your needs are, and then report back to the greater group, have that conversation, and then we can move forward together.
Quickly here, right here where it says, I think it says only CSC members shall be on this. Yeah, only CAC members shall serve on the subcommittees. I'm just thinking that this may be time for an exception to that because we are trying to improve the efficiency of our CAC to provide benefits to communities and such. So maybe an opportunity for us in some way to allow a person from community, but maybe in a leadership role, to be on the committee on a temporary basis, again, so that we can have that one-on-one dialogue, that direct interaction, if you would. Just because this committee is designed to benefit the community, we need the community's voice on that particular community.
If I may, Quan. So I think as you look at Quan's vision for the CAC, Gary, I think that it involves everything that you're discussing. You know, Quan, we've talked about, do we have the right table set here. And maybe who, Gary, to your point, Quan's talked about, are there outside community partners that we might benefit by having them at this table?
Right.
So I think that the subcommittee structure being proposed is not a forever thing, but a group that's going to come back and make specific recommendations in that regard, correct, Quan? So that the notion of who else we might be missing at the table, I think that's what the subcommittee will be tackling, right? Exactly. Would that be accurate?
That is, and as far as specifically being able to make an exception, that would just be something that the CAC has to have that conversation about. I would say you do need a quorum. From my understanding of the bylaws is that you do need a quorum to be able to make that decision. And I think it would also be a conversation with the chair on what that would look like. Delcino, did you have
I see this as sort of a dual track. One is focusing on the bylaws and our structure. Another is looking at what can we do differently as a body, as we function. You know, what is our true purpose for being here? I see that as two different roles, if you will. Bylaws is really just kind of looking internally at, how we're, governance versus what's the true vision for this body moving forward. I see that as, this certainly could be under one subcommittee, but perhaps there could be another that's solely focused on what the vision for this particular body is, what topics do we want to cover? Who do we want to bring in as speakers? Do we want to do a port tour, whatever?
Yes.
That kind of thing. I see as separate than just examining our governance.
Absolutely. And I love that you are talking about the vision, because then that helps us to plan forward about maybe some long-term projects that we as a body would like to be involved in, or some goals that we would like to set. Maybe, for a year, we want to focus specifically on just identifying the needs of our different disadvantaged communities within the region. And that's something that the CAC could then set forth on, and we could give you the resources to do.
So Quan, at this moment, are you asking us to vote on whether or not we want to do subcommittees? Is that what the suggestion is at the moment?
I'll let Mark take that.
So I would suggest this, that because we do not have a quorum, we can't take official action, but we can do a straw vote to get a sense of the membership present today and pass that on to the next meeting.
Well, and so per the bylaws, technically, the chair is able to create said subcommittee and appoint those members. This was more so to get that forum started and get that conversation started to see what questions might be there, what concerns, answer any of those. And then ultimately it is up to the chair to decide to create that subcommittee. No vote is needed.
Just action by the chair.
But I would feel better, rather than doing it by fiat, to get your sense of whether this is a path we want to go down. So I'm trying to implicate you.
So I'll say, I'll follow up to my question, and I agree with what Delcino was saying in terms of structure and bylaws. I hardly agree that there is structure. And if we're looking at, what are the asks of this committee going forward in the community, Gary, to your point, the fact that I don't know if you need an external committee member or community member on a community body, right? We are supposed to be the community in that sense. That representation. And so if we are charged, right, with what we're charged with is pulling back from our community and coming here and adding advice, providing counsel, et cetera, there needs to be a little bit more detail. So I would say absolutely yes, with the caveat of I won't sit on it until maybe January, February. But
Congratulations.
Thank you. are we public? Now this is getting personal.
Okay,
No.
sorry.
But I would say yes, I think we need to move forward with that, just so that we're, as Delcino was saying, one, looking at the bylaws, but more importantly, structure and the vision of this committee in the body.
Absolutely, thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to the proposition?
I volunteer everybody who was absent today.
I think we can take a vote on that.
So-
Mr. Chairman, I think the concept is valid. I do think we have two paths to go down. One is a bylaw review. The second one is a committee to establish mechanisms for us as members to get information to our appropriate agencies and to receive comments back and get them back into the train, load it up with ideas and concepts. And I think I mentioned that the last time, that I did mention it the last time, it's in the minutes, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do think that's an important thing that we have not been doing. And that's for us as individuals to work with whomever it was that appointed us and get feedback and bring that feedback back here to truly make our recommendations a regional recommendation and not just to protect our own Main Street, if you would.
Understood. Anybody else? So do we have a sense of the room that we want to go forward with this? So please note that there was no objection.
Okay.
And we will impress that on those who show up the next time, hopefully in enough numbers to conduct official business.
Mr. Chair, if I could just push back a little bit on that, I wouldn't want to wait 2 months. I'd rather, at least we send out an email, Bob, correct me, Robert's rule and all that, but to at least push this out, let them know that this is something that there's a consensus of those present today, that we'd like to move forward with this. And then seek volunteers, seek action, and then have that body in place by our December meeting versus waiting and hope people show up and then we're back where we started.
So going back to what our liaisons said, this is already one of the powers, one of the duties of the chair. With your concurrence as what should I say, a sampling, yes, a representative sampling of the body as a whole, I would feel good about actually taking that action.
Yeah, I think you have a collective nod, yes.
Yes, we've established that. So this will happen and we're not going to let it marinate for another 2 months.
So that I can clarify before we send out communication asking, for volunteers, are you establishing a subcommittee just for bylaws or also another subcommittee for vision as well as Delcino and some other members mentioned? So will it just be one subcommittee or two?
So in for a penny, in for a pound, right? I believe that those suggestions have merit and we'll establish 2 subcommittees.
2 subcommittees, okay. Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
and I just throw this out there to see what maybe the CAC membership thinks. It seems to me that writing bylaws become a fairly easier task once you establish vision and direction. And I might suggest that if you have 2 subcommittees, one on vision and direction and one on bylaws, you could get some spinning and redundancy. Mr. Chairman, I might suggest, but I look to other people that have done strategic planning for organizations as well, that if you set up your subcommittee to deal with goal, vision, and direction of this group, once you come to consensus on that, I'm betting Quan can write those bylaws in a week, right? Because you're going to know what you need to accomplish, right? The bylaws are merely the tool to accomplish those goals. I might suggest you go with one and you
Okay.
really dig into that deep conversation you all want to have about what the future of this group looks like. Does that make sense?
I did some strategic work, at another company, and that's exactly what happens, is you have one committee, subcommittee, and then on the subcommittee, you have specialization. And those specializations that focus on bylaws based upon skill sets, but some people are just really good at writing laws and bylaws, some people are more analytical, some people are more engaging with the public. So you have those specializations, because to your point, if you have two committees, you have a gap, you have a silo, and create a committee. I don't definitely agree with that.
Do we have concurrence?
Sure.
Okay, then I will take that direction change.
All right. So just to clarify, we will create one subcommittee to explore the goals, the vision, and the direction forward of the CAC. And from that will also come the updated bylaws.
Perfect, that's it,
Okay.
yeah.
I have
All
a
right.
question.
Yes.
Do we have existing bylaws that you could use in that?
We do. We absolutely do. I had some copies at our last CAC meeting. I can make sure that I distribute those electronically as well to all of our CAC members so that you all can see what the current bylaws are as well.
Now, were you talking about bylaws for the body or the CAC as a whole, or were you talking about bylaws for the subcommittee?
No, bylaws of CAC.
Okay, because those have been around.
Even
What-
when we changed from CTAC to CAC.
Yeah,
they
they were
don't
updated.
change at all.
Yeah,
Yes, they were updated.
yeah.
They were amended in that transition.
Just to include the PDC.
They were amended to include the PDC. And so, sorry, I don't want to misspeak because I did have to do a little bit of archival-like research when looking at them. But my understanding is that they were amended to change the name and to change the scope to also include the PDC as well. But as far as like membership, the process for membership, none of those core structural items appeared to be changed during that process.
That's my recollection.
I'm sorry.
That's my recollection as well.
All right. Well, then in that case, I'll make sure that in our distribution of the minutes for this, that we also make a call for volunteers for the subcommittee, if that is okay with the group. Chair, if I could, before we close out, I just have a couple things to inform the group about.
Okay, I did want to make that comment that was going to be at the opening about our colleague.
Yes.
So I have circulated a card. I don't think you had a chance to sign it. Ms. Sharon Anderson, one of our members, lost her mother this last weekend, which is the reason she's not among us today. So I brought a card in that we could send to her as colleagues.
Thank
Your
you.
turn.
If you look at the agenda, you'll see there are a couple items that we skipped. And just for the sake of time, honestly, that tour I feel like was very, very informative and was able to give y'all a good idea of just what we do here under our house. However, I will still share the PowerPoint that we had today. It's a little bit more detailed about the relationship between the PDC, the TPO, and how that works. And so you can have time to look that over as well. And I'd still be willing to give that presentation if y'all would like it at a later date. But at least you'll have that as a resource for reference as part of, those onboarding materials. If you see here in front of you, there's a PDC and TPO summary report. I highly encourage you, please just, look through it, especially after our tour today. I think you'll find that some of those items are things that you'll be more familiar with. And again, you can come and let us know if you want more information about, or if you'd like to have maybe that department come in here and speak with the CAC about a specific item there. I brought this, so I did want to make sure that we made a quick announcement as well. One of our CAC members was actually named 40 under 40, Anthony Bugloski. And so I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge them as well, because it's just great to see our CAC members doing wonderful things. So thank y'all for the work that you do in the community, and for sharing your time here with us today. And a special thank you for your time today, and for just being willing to engage with us as an agency as we went around the building. I'm very excited for the future and the direction of the CAC, and I appreciate that y'all continue to take your time out and share it with us.
May I mention one item for CAC members, if I may? Just very quickly, I know calendars are busy, but on November the 28th, HRT will be holding the State of Transit in Hampton Roads. That's going to happen. It's from November the 28th, and I'm sure Quan can send out a reminder. But November the 28th, it's going to be from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And it's going to be a facility called the Hub, HUB 757 in Suffolk. It's on Bridgeway Drive. So just it might encourage CAC members to either think about attending, or Quan, perhaps you could send it out to our CAC members, and maybe they could help spread the word on that event. Looking to get as much attendance as possible.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Quan.
Thank you,
Question,
Bob.
Bob, I don't know if I missed it, but is the final legislative packet available? Are you still fine tuning it, or?
We are still fine tuning. We've
Okay.
gone through 7 meetings in the past month, and we'll be discussing it with the PDC and TPO boards next week. And then the hope is if we can get endorsement, we can start designing a brochure and get that to you. Okay, so that'll be a coming attraction before the next CAC meeting even.
And before you leave, I know I said I was done, but y'all know I'm always talking. So before you leave, you'll just notice out on the table, we have a couple different booklets. This one I found to be so cool. Kelly found it. It's actually a callback since it was made in 2008, but it's still so relevant. It gives a history of some of the major projects that the PDC and TPO have been involved in over the decades. And so that can also provide some familiarity with who we are and what we do. As John Mahaley mentioned, this is the TPO's UPWP. And so that is also available. Any project that we're doing, any work that we're doing is going to be in here. And then also the PDC's work program is also out there, and the same applies for them. So I just want you to know that those resources are available, and if we do run out of copies, I can make sure to get you some. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Crum, thank you. Colleagues, thank you for coming. I believe that even though we lacked a quorum to do official business, the tour by itself was probably worth the effort of coming here. I was remarking to Mr. Crum, my association with the regional bodies is about 20 years long, and today is the first time I've ever set foot in that portion of the building. So matter how long you've been around, there's always something you can learn. Thank you for your diligence, and I look forward to seeing you in December.
Thank you. Ivy?